rusty wheels and knew I'd take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years and let her sew again.
Welcome to part 2 on my Florence Rotary here. And I've done a little bit of research on her, and a couple things I found out is the white company on one chart I found said that they did the Florence Rotary model in 1921. And that's all I saw on Florence Rotary, so I'm assuming that she is from 1921, which makes sense because she has a mount for a motor, so I know she's not, super old, but she still has a lot of old style, you know what I mean? I love this machine because, look at her, she's standing up on her own. I mean, how many engineers did it take to say, hey, let's make a cast iron base so that it won't fall over when people are working on it outside of a cabinet? I mean, how hard was that to figure out? But anyway, I've got her stripped, and after she was in my electrolysis tank for a couple days, then I pulled her out and did the final work up here with an abrasive wheel with just a little bit of stripper for the really heavy points. And I think I've got all of her paint off. I am going to give her a primer coat of my primer gray. And when I have that on, I'll be able to tell really, really closely if I've missed anything, because it'll stick out a whole lot more then. And actually right now I see a tiny piece right here that I missed. But first I'm gonna mask her, and remember I did leave a lot of parts on. So like stop it, cat. So like my stitch length control here is still on, so I went ahead and tried to polish that up with my Dremel tool before I'm masking, because I don't want to get power tools that close to the machine after it's all painted up, if you know what I mean. I'm having flashbacks of medallion issues. So let me go ahead and get all of her sensitive parts, all of her moving parts masked up. After I pulled her out of the electrolysis tank, I did oil her internals that I left in place, just because they're prone to want to rust if I don't. So I got them, fairly clean, as much as you can inside of the machine, and they are moving freely, so that's good. The parts that I'm going to be painting is obviously the machine. This is the front plate, which is about 1 inch thick. It's got all of the internals, so this will be painted entirely. This is the back of the wheel. It's the whole little clutch mechanism. It's going to get painted entirely, except for, I'll mask off the centers. This is the wheel itself, and I know there are pieces of paint in here, but they did not want to come off. So I want to see how it looks after I mask it, just to see if I need to, do more fine tuning on it. A lot of the stuff that didn't come off very well, hang on, cat, is going to be hidden by another piece. So, I'm not going to get too paranoid about that. And then there is the little bracket that holds the bobbin winder on. Okay, so I'll mask off the wheel and this little post here, but the rest of it will get painted. So let me get the masking done, and I will be back shortly. She looks peaceful right now, doesn't she? But she's a good kitty, and she killed a mouse for me earlier today, so she earns her keep. So I got everything masked off. This is protected. End of the shaft. I just masked off the entire front of this because the cap is going to go over it. And so yeah, that is masked off in its little side. inside here, that little knob that sticks out. And then underneath, I just kind of mothballed that whole shaft and all of its parts. Everybody is hanging up now and ready to be painted. I'm going to give them all a single decent coat of my, where are you? There you are, Rust-Oleum Filler Primer, and let that dry, and then tomorrow I will give her color. Okay, there she is, all of her parts all primered up. I'm going to leave her alone to sleep for a day now. Okay, so I have my first coat, and it is purling it up some. So I think this is going to be really pretty. Very excited about this. I'm going to let it sit for about 20 minutes and then come back and give it, I think, one more coat of pearl, and then we will let her sit overnight. Okay, so this has the final pearl coat on it, and it's looking good. I'm just gonna call that good. Now on my little clutch down here, there's a spot on the bottom that for some reason paint is not sticking to, right there. So I'm gonna have to deal with that, but I'll deal with that later. And I had some drips on this plate that, you know, I will deal with that later too. But my main thing is for the machine itself, because that's what's gonna take the longest to decorate. I can do the little pieces after. And I think she looks beautiful. I like this technique. I wasn't sure how it would work out, but I think it looks like a pink pearl. That's what it looks like, a pink pearl. So I'm going to call this good. I'm going to give her a couple days to dry to try to let this set before we start decorating her. Good morning and welcome to Paint Decoration Day. I am just smoothing down my very, very cured surface. This has been drying for several days now, and I'm using a very fine grit sandpaper just to try to get any little rough spots taken down. At this point, I still have everything masked. I could take that off. I probably will. I just want to get things nice and smooth because I'm going to be putting some really pretty decals on her. She's going to be like a hydrangea flower theme. So let me go ahead and pull all the masking tape off of her parts. Now I want to show you, I peeled off my masking tape around my wheel, but you can see there's some rough paint edges here. So what I do is just get a little 400 grit sandpaper and rub those edges, and it buffs it off. And then if I want to come back with a finer grit to polish that in, I can. But for right now, at this stage, this is where I'm going to be stopping. I can do a finish buff and polish on this wheel a little bit later. I'm pretty much going to set all my smaller pieces aside for right now. I will be decorating my front plate. But there was this one smaller wheel that the paint did not do well on the bottom, so it's completely dry now. I've sanded everything down so it's even. I have some more paint that I can do a touch-up down here, and I'll be doing that because, you know, that's ugly. But this is on the wheel that's going to be spinning a lot, so I'm not overly concerned that everything is going to be exactly perfect here because it'll be spinning, and who's going to notice that? So I'm just going to set that aside with the wheel so I can get started pulling all the masking off of this machine and getting it ready for decal. Okay, so that is going to be it for her decals. I'm going to leave her alone to dry for a few hours here. I think they're lovely. I said hydrangea. They're not hydrangeas. They're something else. Not sure what they are, but they're a cute little light blue flower. I think the color reminded me of hydrangea. I think that's what it was. I don't even know. So I'm doing a last check to make sure that nothing has become wrinkled while I've been grabbing and moving the machine around, doing any final presses. If there's a wrinkle on a curved surface, I think you saw what I've figured out works for me is I try to push the wrinkle into a place where there's not decal, like in a blank space, like here it would be in between petals or leaves or something. And then if I make a slice in the decal at that point, I can get them to kind of overlap and lay flat. So that is what I was working on there. These two, this is the front plate, this is the back plate. Those are going to go on. They're going to be real pretty. So there you go. I will be back later on tonight. So once again, I'm going to be using my clear coat, and I'm still trying to refine the process. And I thinned it last time with acetone, and I think that helped, but I still had some streaks using a standard brush. And they do specify that you can brush it on. So this time I'm going to try to use a sponge brush and see if that keeps any streaks from coming on. So we will just see. I just want to give this machine a final brushing off because every little speck that is sitting on there is like amplified as soon as the clear coat hits. So swirl it around, mix it up, and let's see what we can do here. For that round piece, I have touched it up with paint. It's over drying. And my faceplate, the side, there was a drip on the side, and I figured as long as I'm touching up the paint on that wheel, I'm touching up the faceplate also. So I will clear coat that later once they are completely dry. And I'm going to start with this little side plate just to see how it goes before I do the complete machine. You know, I think I'm going to need to trim this down. It's so long that it seems like it's too floppy. So hang on one second. Trimming the brush does not work. So I'm just getting well, it's all wet, so I'm just getting a brand new one here, and I'm going to cut it straight off there. And cut a corner off here so it's kind of like a wedge. That's my thought. Okay, let's see how this works. Well, that seems to work better. And I have just a little thing here that I can prop this up on to dry at an angle. Okay, so there you go. Nice and shiny. I wanted to make sure my brush wasn't going to dissolve because this does have acetone in it to thin it, so I'm going to start back here on the back where I'm already getting some drips. Okay, well this may take a little bit to fine-tune. Let me see what I can come up with. At this point, I'm thinking that the sponge is an improvement. I'm thinking I don't see like the brush marks and streaks that I did before with the other. So it's definitely disposable because once you use it, it is done. It is trash. But that's okay. That's why they're inexpensive. So this is going to sit for quite some time. I'm going to let her sit for a long time. I'm going to be going out of town, so when I get back is when I'm going to go ahead and put her back together. Everybody, it has actually been almost 2 weeks since I touched this. I've been traveling and I just got back and I was looking at it and it seemed a little bit flat. So what I'm doing, I've done this back plate and the face plate here, is I'm coming back with my gold paint, my 24 karat gold paint, and just adding some detail. I don't know if you can see detail on the flowers. Just touched it. It's okay. It's dry enough. Some little dots, you know, just to give it a little bit of texture. I think that that's going to be nice. So I've done this plate, this big face plate also. Gives it a nice shine. And now I'm going to bring the machine over and do detail on the machine. So I need to move all of these pieces over. And also, when I got back and I was looking at my wheel and everything, there was one of my sections had not gotten painted. I guess I didn't rotate it well enough. So I just sprayed some spray paint into one of my little ashtray things with a brush. I touched it and it looks good now. So this does not have detail on it, of course. I'm gonna go get my main machine, pop it down here and see what we can do. Oh, and I have also, this morning when I came in, totally changed my table. This was facing the window, which was great for me, great lighting and everything, but terrible for the camera. So I've rotated it so I'm not right in front of the window. I'm hoping that I'll be able to get better lighting. Right now the contrast seems to be pretty good, so that's a good thing. Okay, so at this point, all of this is very dry. There was one little piece, out of all of the decals, there's one little piece right here, just about an inch or so high, and the whole little width down here, where it looks a little bit like a crazed type of a finish. It's not really a blister, it's just a little bit crazed or slightly textured. And it's not loose at all, it's not gonna come off, it just has a slightly different texture, but you know what, we're just gonna go with it. So what I'm doing is in my 1970s vintage ashtray, got some of my gold paint. Let's see if I can do this where the camera can see. I'm going to do this little guy out here. I'm just putting a nice little bit in the center of the flower and bringing it out and following the little creases on the leaf. And I think it gives it a nice little bit of something extra, something vintage-ish. I like it. So I'm just going to keep doing this all over the rest of the machine. I just realized you probably can't even see that close up. Focus. Okay, so hopefully you can see that it does give it a little more pizzazz, okay? The little dots, the little gold and everything. So this is basically what I am doing down here. I'm not going to be touching the lettering of my Florence lettering or anything. I'm going to leave that perfectly black. And so let me get all of that done and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, I think she's about done. I'm going to put my brighter light on here, so hopefully it will pick up the detail. Oh, it's got that flicker thing going again. Hang on. Well, we'll figure out the lighting soon. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. Once this is completely dry, it should be good to go. If it looks like the gold might be too fragile, I might put a little bit more clear coat over it. But right now I think that it's going to be good. The paint that I put it on top of this clear coat and everything gives it a nice place to stick onto. So there you go. This is the back side with her little biography. And I want to make sure you can see I can still read serial numbers. When I paint over the serial numbers, you can still read them. They just don't stick out. So that is it. Like I said, the only thing I might change is putting a clear coat over it, but at this point I think I won't. So I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
I found an antique sewing machine for take her home. I brought her to my farm in an Amish neighborhood where simple living's valued. She'd be loved and understood. I put her on a treadle stand and coaxed her wheel to turn. I felt her joy and easing with my study and concern. I cleaned her and I oiled her, showed her off to all my friends, repaired the hurts of years, and let her sew again.